This is a VHS tape, the first practical way for consumers to watch movies and TV shows at their own leisure. Unless you were rich, then personal movie theaters were an option, but the average Joe couldn't afford it, obviously, so they had to wait until VHS. These tapes lasted in the home market a long-ass time, from 1971 to the early 2000s, when they're gradually replaced by DVD, and finally in 2007, they died out. But ever since Blu-ray came out when I was a kid, I always assumed that Blu-ray would replace DVDs in the same manner as DVDs did to VHS, but time ticked on. 2010, 2011, 2012, and even 15 years after it came out, DVDs are still alive and kicking, while Blu-rays still haven't replaced it yet. But the question is, how? How did the DVD format survive so long? How did it remain so relevant despite its successor being around for 15 years? There are many reasons for this, and we'll be looking at all of them in this video. Reason 1. Blu-ray doesn't have nearly as many improvements compared to DVD as DVD did to VHS. Let's look at some examples, shall we? 1. DVDs used a digital format, where VHS tapes were just a strip of magnetic tape in a plastic shell. 2. DVDs were way cheaper to produce than VHS tapes were. 3. DVDs could store much more data than a VHS tape if you count that in terms of total playtime. 4. DVDs introduced an interactive interface menu that could be used to watch specific episodes or put on subtitles. 5. DVDs don't degrade over time like VHS tapes do. Theoretically, they could last for centuries as long as you don't scratch them. 6. And speaking of that, it's possible to try and restore a damaged disc, while it's near impossible to do that with a VHS tape. 7. DVD players can also play CDs. 8. DVDs in their cases are much smaller, way better designed, and look a lot better on your shelf. And finally, 10. You don't have to rewind a DVD. Oh, and one more actually. DVDs can be played on other devices like game consoles and computers, while VHS tapes obviously can't. Those are a lot of huge improvements, but let's see how a Blu-ray disc stacks up. First, Blu-ray can store way more data, up to 25 gigs, while its predecessor could only store 5, meaning that a large amount of episodes and content can be stored on a single disc. 2. Blu-rays are also somewhat scratch resistant. 3. And finally, Blu-rays are capable of displaying much better video quality, with their video resolution going all the way from 1080p to 4K depending on what player you have. Its predecessor, on the other hand, can only go up to 480p to my knowledge. So you can see that Blu-ray didn't have nearly enough improvements to make customers want to make the plunge to abandon DVD and go to Blu-ray, but there are quite a few more reasons. Reason 2. Blu-ray players are backwards compatible with DVDs. This one might not sound like it'd be a big deal, but it is. It's a gigantic factor. Now, how many of you have a Blu-ray player? And how many Blu-rays do you have? My guess is you have a lot of DVDs, and probably more DVDs than Blu-rays. After all, it's mighty convenient to buy whatever version is cheaper. I mean, sometimes it's not worth the extra money to buy the Blu-ray version. I mean, I'm guilty of this from time to time. It's not like with a DVD player where you can only watch DVDs and you can't go back and watch VHS. I mean, it just makes sense to just choose whatever you want. And the third and final reason is digital media, the biggest reason and the most likely, the fact that both formats are slowly getting replaced. It's a lot more convenient, faster, and cheaper just to buy what you want on a service like Prime Video, so a lot of people just skip the Blu-ray step and move directly into the internet realm. We're in a weird period today. There are those of us who prefer physical media and have switched over to Blu-ray. There's those of us who've stuck with DVD, and those of us who've made a transfer to digital. But companies have solved this by making those combo packs with all free. Yeah, it's a little excessive and expensive, but hey, at least you can give one of the discs to your friends or something. Now the question is, will Blu-ray ever replace DVDs? And the answer is no. They're most likely gonna die in the next 10 to 15 years from digital media, both of them. There's just too many advantages of digital media, and more people are gonna make the switch. It's only a matter of time before both of these formats become irrelevant, not necessarily extinct. Think more like how CDs and vinyl are treated today. Blu-rays are superior, so they'll most likely stick around a little longer than DVDs, so I guess in the long run they will sort of replace them, but they won't be the king when they do it. This has been Josh of Alpha Leaf Gaming.